So let's go into a bit more detail about the sources of self-efficacy and explain how they fit into Bandura's model at the end. So there's quite a few things that influence how we feel about our performance and our abilities. And one of the most dependable sources of how you feel is your actual performance, okay? You will start to feel like you're a good swimmer if you perform well in the pool, okay? That's a fairly obvious conclusion, that if you win those 8 gold medals, you probably will have a reasonable sense of yourself being quite competent at it. But there are other ways of building self-confidence and other influences. Vicarious experience suggests that by watching someone else succeed or fail, it can influence the way that you feel you might succeed or fail. So pretend that you're skiing, for example, and you're watching a mate try to nail a 360 off a jump, okay? And you watch them come down and they go off, they do their 360 and they land right on their heel edge, face plant and fall down the mountain. Now, that might be funny, but at the same time, it may have an influence on your self-confidence, because you're like, well, that looked easy, but look at how hard that person made it, okay? And that vicarious experience, watching them fail, can influence your own performance, okay? And your own sense of competence, if you will, okay? We know that other people can influence your confidence, and you may have seen this where a friend or a trusted colleague or a coach has given you a little bit of encouragement, and that can change the way that you see your ability. That sometimes people can persuade each other in how confident or how well that they're likely to perform. And so we do know that verbal persuasion from others can help change people's confidence just as much as criticism can. So if someone says, oh mate, you did a terrible job, then that will reduce your confidence, because that might bring into question your belief in your own ability, okay? In a similar vein, some people suggest that imagining successful or failure or unsuccessful images can also influence your confidence. So if you imagine yourself doing that 360 and landing on your front edge and flipping and falling down the mountain, then that image might reduce your confidence. Similarly, if you imagine yourself nailing it and getting crowds from the people on the chairlift, then that might build your confidence, okay? So it's not necessarily the persuasion so much as the imagining it yourself, that success or failure. Physiological states can influence how we feel about ourselves too, okay? So that's like whether your heart starts going quickly, whether you start shaking. And one example I have of this is sometimes when I get cold, my body will shake, and I can sometimes mistake that for feeling nervous. And when that physiological state of feeling nervous comes up, then that can reduce your confidence in your ability, because you're like, oh, I'm shaking, something must be wrong, I must be about to fail or something like that. And in a similar way, if you feel quite relaxed physiologically, then sometimes that can build your level of confidence. Another example of this is sometimes when people take some psychoactive substances, they get this building confidence, and it's not like anything else has changed. None of the things we talked about before have changed. You haven't had any change to your performance accomplishments, there's been no vicarious experience, but your physiological state has changed, and that can build someone with a whole lot of confidence. And in the same way, the way you feel emotionally as well as physiologically, so physiologically would be like your hands shaking, emotionally would be like that feeling of anxiety going on. Those can separately or together change your self-efficacy. And so Bandura's self-efficacy theory is that all of those factors come together to create your expectations of success or failure. Do you think that you're going to succeed or fail at the task? So if you're lining up for that jump, all of those things, your past jumps, what you saw your mates do, your mates encouraging you, how you're feeling, how nervous you are, you're imagining the success, all of those will come down to your expectation about whether you're going to succeed at the jump or fail. And that expectation directly influences your performance. And the reason this is interesting is because that performance will influence your experience. If you nail the jump, then next time you'll feel more confident, and it can create that nice positive feedback loop. Or if you fail and you do land on your heel edge and you hurt yourself, then that will reduce your expectations next time. So this cycle of confidence and self-efficacy is one of the kind of most infamous phenomenon, the positive feedback loop of success to confidence, to success to confidence, and it can also lead to that negative feedback loop where you or your team fails, they lose confidence and they fail and they get into that downward spiral. But the interesting thing about self-efficacy theory is that all of these factors can play a role in changing our level of efficacy.